Today, we're joined once again by Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Dr. Kedar served for decades in Israeli military intelligence, holds a PhD in Arabic studies, and is one of the leading experts on Arab society, political Islam, and the strategic realities of the Middle East. In this conversation, we're not just talking about headlines, we're talking about hard truths, what the West gets wrong, maybe what Israel gets wrong, and what may be coming next in the region. Dr. Kedar, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure and my honor, sir.
What do you think is the single, or maybe some of the lies that the world believes about the Middle East nowadays?
You know what? Two things are, I think, the big problem of Westerners when it comes to the Middle East. First of all, Westerners keep thinking that you can run the Middle East with ideologies and all kinds of political tools which were invented in the West. Because ideologies and political tools are product of a culture. If it's the French culture, the British culture, Western culture in general, definitely. While the Middle East works according to totally different tools and rules and mindset, values, set of priorities, everything here in the Middle East is different. I'll give you a good example. In the West of today, the role of religion is either totally or almost totally diminished because most of the people are atheists in the West. And anyway, the French Revolution actually divided between the state and church. So the fact that you are Christian or apostate or atheist or Muslim or even a Jew usually should not be any obstacle on your way to the political arena. We had Joe Lieberman, the Jewish guy who people were talking about him as a candidate for presidency at some point. You have Mormon like Mitt Romney. You have Congress members who are Muslims because religion is in the margin if it plays a role at all. In the Middle East, this is not the game. It's totally opposite. Here, within Muslims, if you are a Muslim, you are our brother. If you are not a Muslim, go to hell. And within Sunnis, if you are a Sunni, you are our brother. If you are a Shia, go to hell. And if you don't go, we'll send you to hell. If you are an Arab, and this is the national belonging, if your friend is a Kurd, you have to explain how come you're friend with Kurdish. Okay, usually you don't get married or you don't marry your daughter with somebody who is out of your framework, whether it is the nation or the ethnic group or the tribe in many cases. So I would say the definition of the person is different. In the individual societies, as the Westerners are, the individual is the center of the being. While in the Middle East, it's the group. It's always the group. Either it's a religious group or the sectarian group or ethnic group or tribal group. It's a group thinking. People are not individuals. People don't feel like individuals. So this is the reason why you cannot implement all kinds of ideas and the ideologies of the West in the Middle East, because here the basis of thinking is different. Secondly, in the West, when somebody says something, people relate to it as he says what he means, and he means what he says. Means there is total resemblance between what person says and what he thinks. This is the basic relation to what people say. You quote people because you think that what they say is what they think. Here in the Middle East, people talk in three levels. The upper level is the face value of what he says. Actually, the content of what he says. Under this, there is another layer, which is what he means, which is not necessarily the same. He says one thing, it means something else. And the lower one, the deepest layer or level is what he hides. Because if he says something, people say, okay, first of all, what does he mean? Secondly, what is he hiding by saying A? What is the B which he is trying to hide? This is how people listen to you. And when they hear what you say, they all the time try to analyze what you say according to this. This is something which in the West does not exist. And therefore, here, when people say something to Westerners, they tend to believe. They say that these people from this area say what they mean and they mean what they say. But no, here in the Middle East, people tell you one thing, they mean different thing, and they hide something else. And this actually we saw very well this phenomenon in the negotiations with Iran through decades about many things, especially their military nuclear program. They always came to some kind of an agreement with the West, IEAE, with the United States, with the power 5+1, but they never implemented the agreement. So they had another time of negotiations in order to reach another agreement, which they will not implement, and therefore we have to sit with them and to come to another agreement, which again they will not implement. This is, and Westerners don't understand. Hey, we signed something. How come you don't implement it? Okay, they hide the fact that they are not willing to implement anything because they see their right, which is given to them by Allah, to develop nuclear weapons or missiles or whatever they want. So this is things which the Westerns do not get it. They don't get the situation, and therefore they are falling in the pit of the deception of the Middle East time and again. We try to educate or to open the eyes of Westerners, but unfortunately, people are not willing to learn about other cultures because it means to learn their languages, history, sociology, anthropology, all kinds of givens in other societies, which requires the decision maker to start studying. And in most cases, decision makers in the West think that they know everything. And nobody can teach them anything. And this is why they keep making mistakes whenever it comes to the Middle East.
So clearly, the West doesn't understand the Middle East and how it operates. How does, when it comes to the Israeli Palestinian conflict, do you think they misunderstand that as well? Or is it misrepresented in the media? What is exactly going on? Why don't the Western governments fully understand the conflict between Israel and
Look,
Gaza?
let's start with the Israelis themselves. The Israelis are Westerners. We think, well, no, many Israelis studied in the West and they internalized the values of the West, ways of thinking of the West. Either they studied in France or in Britain or the United States of America. And they think that the Western knowledge or the Western thinking is the only one which prevails in the whole world. They also ignore the fact that the Middle East operates according to different rules. You know, the economy in the Middle East works different. Economy in Western mindset says that you should employ who fit their job. Not you cannot prefer a man or a woman or I don't know, people of color or whatever. If you need something professional, you need let's say an accountant. So you take the best accountant in town, regardless of what he is and who he is. Your relative, not your relative. Yeah, okay. Here in the Middle East, you will employ your brothers or your cousins, even if they don't fit. Even if they don't fit, why? Because you are committed the family, because the status of family in the Middle East is not as it is in the West. So you must employ your brother or your cousin, otherwise you're a traitor.
Can you speak about democracy and how it's not compatible with the Middle East? Because that's something I think a lot of people misunderstand.
Democracy is another Western invention which doesn't fit in the Middle East. Look, I'll tell you why. The components of democracy are freedom of speech, freedom of women, okay, to do whatever they like with whoever they like, whenever they like, because they are free to do whatever they like. Freedom of gays and lesbians, freedom of religion, freedom from religion, freedom of, whatever freedoms we believe. This is the core of democracy. Okay, you have also elections once in 4 years. But human rights are constantly, and freedom of religion, freedom from religion, is every day and every minute. So these freedoms are constant, while elections happen only once in 4 years. So what is more important? Of course, the freedoms. And just look, there are countries in the West which half of the people do not even bother to go to vote. Yet they will not, means people give up on their right to vote. Will they give up on their right to think or to speak. Not at all. The fact that one doesn't exercise his right to elect doesn't mean that he gives up on his rights to whatever he deserves to have. Okay, so the, the, the freedoms are much more important at the end of the day for the person or for the individual than elections. All these freedoms in the Middle East are either totally or at least partially unacceptable. Freedom of women, excuse me, it means bring shame on the family, according to the tribal traditions of the Middle East. Freedom of religion, freedom from religion, you know, what happens to somebody who declares that he is leaving Islam after he was either born to Islam or embraced Islam at some point in his life. You know what will happen to him if he declares openly that he left Islam? He most probably will be beheaded by the society, because this is the punishment of somebody who became an apostate. Okay, so you don't have freedom of religion, you don't have freedom from religion, you don't have freedom of women and the LGBTQX communities. And these are the basic freedoms on which you can build a democracy. Because without these freedoms, there is no democracy. And yet, you have also elections, but the elections are every once in 4 years. So, since the most important components of democracy cannot be implemented in the Arab and the Islamic world, the answer to your question is that democracy is a very good system, not for the Middle East.
In your opinion, did Yasser Arafat ever truly intend to make peace with Israel?
Not for one moment, not even for one moment. How do I know? The Palestinian Authority was established in the summer of 1994, and month or 2 months after the establishment of the Palestinian Authority, Arafat went to some countries in the world to collect support. And he went to Johannesburg in South Africa, and there was a crowd in one of the mosques, and he went there to speak to them about the agreements, about the Middle East, what he is doing. So he talked about the Oslo agreements with Israel. One of the people in the crowd stood up and said, how could you shake the hands for peace with the Zionists, with the Jews? How could you? So Arafat answered in a question, what did our prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, do in Hudaybiyyah? Hudaybiyyah is a village between Mecca and Medina. And one day, when he wanted to go in the year of 628, when he wanted to go and occupy Mecca, a family which was in the village in the Hudaybiyyah, between Mecca and Medina, offered to him to come to the home and to sit with the Meccans and to come to terms with the Meccans, and not to go to fight with the Meccans. This peace was for 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days, 999. However, he violated it after 2 years when the people in Mecca fell asleep on God. From this, Muslims learn that you can make peace with the infidel, but only temporary peace, just like Muhammad did. When you are weak and the infidel is powerful. And they learned another thing, that if your enemy, with whom you signed the agreement, if he falls asleep on God, you can do to him what you should do, even if within the time or within the period of the agreement. Means within the years which there should be peace between you and them. So Arafat said to this guy in Johannesburg, what did our Prophet Muhammad did in Hudaybiyyah? Means temporary peace which he violated. So the man understood the question and he sat down and was satisfied to know that the only Oslo agreement is only because Palestinians cannot defeat Israel right now. So let's try to deceive them as if we are, moderate people and we can live in peace with them. And when they will fall asleep on God, we can exercise our agenda on them, means to slaughter them and to take their daughters. And this is actually what happens in Hudaybiyyah. Therefore, peace in the Middle East is always something which is temporal. In order to achieve permanent peace, you have to be permanently powerful and invincible.
What was Israel's biggest mistake in dealing with Arafat?
First of all, Peres and Balin and the other people in the left have actually believed him, that he means what he says and he says what he means, because this is their mindset as Westerners. He said one thing, meant a totally different thing, and hid from them the third thing, as I told you. So this was the problem. And we are stuck with the problem until this very day, unfortunately.
So, do you think that the policies that they made in Israel in the 90s helped create the conditions that allowed Hamas to rise?
Look, if they only wanted to live in peace with us, we could do, the sky's the limit. The problem is all they want is to deceive us and to attack us and to turn our lives to hell.
Now, is the Palestinian Authority different than Hamas, or is it just a different tactics?
Look, Arafat, when he put Hamas people in jail, he had a revolving door. In the morning, he went out to his family. Towards the evening, he came back, spent the night in his cell as if he's a nice guy. And this was how the PLO and the PA actually cooperated and collaborated with. Today, they continue. In Gaza, they continue to work together. And I really don't know what Israel is doing about this.
Is radical Islam just a fringe of Islam, or is it Islam itself?
Look, Islam is a system of obligations, mitzvot, and don't do, and all kinds of things, very big one. And the name of the religious game is selectivity. You pick from the Quran, the verses, you pick from the hadith, the quotations from Muhammad, the oral tradition. You pick from the people in the street, their custom, and you are one of them regardless of the fact if you believe or don't believe, it doesn't matter to anyone. And you choose to, to represent yourself the verses in the Quran and the halachot in the hadith and all kinds of things in order to shape your ideology according to Islam. If you, let's say, if you are a radical man in your culture and your approach, because you were born in Libya, where everybody is fighting each other constantly. You most probably, when you shake your ideology, you will love to base everything on the verses in the Quran which order the Muslims to go to jihad against the infidels. And if jihad, there is a war. And you will pick from the hadith, from the oral tradition, everything which fits your mindset. And so is uh, the Sirah, the biography of Muhammad, which is also very important document. So it depends on you. If you were born in Los Angeles, the best place in the world, where people are so kind when they hold for you the door when they come in or out, and people speak to each other in a very nice way, and people drive in the roads in very calm and honorary way of driving. So most probably you will adopt ideas which reflect your education. And if your education knew how to use all these precedents from the sources, most probably you will be a moderate guy who will accept everybody and every ideology. It all depends on yourself because the Islamic sources contain everything. From radical ideas to moderate ideas, from radical deeds of Muhammad to written hadith, which he did. So the sources they bear everything. The question is what verses you choose from the Quran, from the hadith, from the sources of knowledge in Islam.
Is it surprising to you that the movements like Hamas, ISIS, Hezbollah, they continue to attract followers despite the fact that they repeatedly are destroyed? We saw how many Hamas fighters and Hezbollah fighters were killed, but they continue to attract followers. Is it surprising to you?
Not at all. Because this is how it works. When the society has nothing to lose, because everything like in Gaza, where though you don't even have food in some cases, all kinds of problems, because your house is demolished. But probably you would join the most radical group in order to take revenge from those who did it to your parents, and maybe for other reasons as well, to gain money or to gain whatever they can.
Speak about Iran. How stable do you think the regime is really compared to how they portray themselves to the world?
Look, the Iranian regime survived many uprising of the population of Israel. Israel succeeded to bomb them without any reaction in June 2025, and now it's a different game today because now the United States is involved. What we see in China is the Russian Navy and the Chinese Navy as well. Therefore, I don't think that anybody can really say what will be there unless your name is Donald Trump. He is the only one who knows and who makes the decisions, because as much as I understand, he is the only one who decides whether to come to work or not.
In your opinion, why do you think he's waiting so long to do anything?
Look, I hardly understand Trump. Maybe he was waiting in order to gain legitimacy to what he wants to achieve. I believe that he knows that the Chinese and the Russians are already in the harbor of Bandar Abbas, and they actually had today, Thursday, uh, night. He had held today maneuvers in the sea. He closed for some 5 hours the Tiran Straits, and according to declarations of the Chinese and the Russian army, Russia is waiting for the Americans. I don't know. I'm almost sure that President Trump doesn't want a global war. He had enough wars which he succeeded to maybe to, I would say to solve, but definitely to get the two sides together and to solve all kinds of differences. This is what I think Trump tries to do. He doesn't like wars. He wants by peaceful means to achieve things which are important for the Iranians. And to say that I know what will happen, it can happen every minute, and I have no idea. Scenarios are different. People usually speak from their hopes rather than from their knowledge. Unfortunately, I try to leave the situation and to understand it before I comment.
But do you think it's possible to topple a regime just by military action, or you need more than that?
It's not easy, but what the people in the ground are preparing, they prepare motorcycles, means I'm talking about the rebels, against, they take um, the weapons, and they can run to the street and they can do whatever they want. Of course, some of them will be killed by the regime, and or maybe many of them will be killed, as many of them were killed, and they definitely risk their lives in order to bring a better future for that country, which definitely deserves it. Yet I have no idea what will be done with the giant fleet in the sea, and there's a fleet also in the north, which are tremendously important in this case. The navy, which is surrounding in the southern part of Iran, in the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, all the way to Diego Garcia, is very frightening for the Iranians. Yet they don't show their fear, and they try to cover it in a way or another. I am rather concerned about this war because it might bring the burning of many, and I'm talking about many, uh, uh, fires in the Gulf, which will be ignited by the Iranians who will try to, or we work with the ideas of let my soul die with the Philistines. As Samson said, means let my soul die with my enemies who are around me. This is how the Iranian regime can behave. And if they see those the Ayatollahs see that they are finished, they will say, okay, let us take to hell some of the people who we hate, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Bahrain. So maybe this is the time to finish this whole um, play and let's burn them all up and let's see what happens. And I would not like to think what will happen then.
Now, the Ayatollah has been in power for many, many years,
47.
47 years. Do you think that he's become more radical over time, or more cautious, or he's been the same, just from, in your opinion?
This regime is radical to begin with. Don't forget the assault on the American embassy, and they captured 52 people from the class of age. Look, the Iranian regime is unpredictable. Therefore, all those experts who keep saying that they will do A, B, or C, I have no idea. Really, I don't. And I do listen to what they say and read what they are.
Let's say the Iranian regime collapses. Does Iran stay one country or break apart because it's made up of so many different?
Right. It definitely can break up. It can, just like what happened with their neighbors in the north, the Soviet Union, which was shattered to pieces. Yeah, this is a very logical a problem.
What are your thoughts on Turkey under Erdogan? Is it becoming more Islamist, more nationalist, more imperial?
What I think that Erdogan wants to restore the Ottoman Empire, which was controlling those times uh, many parts of the Middle East. What today Syria, Lebanon, the land of Israel, Jordan. They were all the way down to Mecca to Sharif Hussein, and also they became very influential through the last couple of years. And in my humble view, Erdogan wants to restore the Ottoman Empire.
Do you think that Israel should be worried about Turkey, or are there other countries that they need to be more worried about?
Well, Israel and other countries should be very much worried because of the influence of Turkey, because to live under the Turkish yoke, it's not so pleasant. And many in the Arab world remember the punishments which they were inflicted by the Turks upon them. And it is as far as could be from heaven, even within those who think that they behave differently. No, I don't believe them. And in my view, Turkey today is on its way to restore the Ottoman Empire, which every day started with people hung up and other people were burned. The Turks are vicious, and I don't advise anyone to get near them, especially uh, for reasons which you can go to Europe instead of go to Turkey.
Yeah, there was Israelis used to travel there a lot before
Yes, of
October 7th.
course, yes. Many Israelis
Now,
used to do it. Yet now I think that very few Jewish people intend to visit the fact.
mhm. What are your thoughts on Syria and Al-Jolani in
A
the future?
jihadist with a necktie. He was a jihadist. Look, there was the ransom of $10 million on his head, and not because he parked in no parking zone. It's because he was the way he was. So what I think is that Jolani should be ousted, but especially should not be accepted in the White House. The fact that he is a murderer might come out at some point. Can anyone have some guarantee that this man will never return to his ISIS group?
It seems like Trump is willing to negotiate with anyone. Do you think that's a mistake, or it's a smart political move?
It's a total mistake because Iran deceives everyone, including American president, and they make them believe that they can react in a way which the West would like. It cannot happen. It will not happen because the truth is different from what they keep saying.
What about Saudi Arabia? We thought that perhaps they might join the Abraham Accords. Now it seems like they're becoming more distant from it.
Oh, Saudi Arabia is very cautious when it comes to Iran. And until the Iranian regime is being removed, Saudi Arabia has to play the role of the state, which has to be very careful.
Why is it that some Arab governments publicly they oppose Israel, but quietly they cooperate with Israel?
Countries like Egypt and Jordan need Israel. Egypt buys the natural gas from us. Jordan gets electricity and water from us. Of course, it's not so comfortable for them to say and to admit, so they will cover it. Yet, the United States of America also covers its relations with all kinds of people and organizations, let alone states, when it's not so easy to keep the situation. Uh, Saudi Arabia is afraid of Iran uh, because of what Iran did to the Saudis at 4 o'clock in the morning in September 14 of 2019. That unfortunate day, the Iranians sent missiles and drones to two major oil production sites of Aramco in Saudi Arabia. Aramco is the company which digs for oil and gas. And once they got it, they started to behave as if they are the masters of the world. Okay, we have to put them on the place in order to save the place, save the world from the evil regime which the Iranians have.
Can you speak a little bit why some Arab states, many Arab states, failed while the small Gulf Emirates have succeeded?
The failures in the Arab world are the result of the fact that societies of failing states like Syria, Iraq, Sudan, Yemen, Libya are comprised of many groups. ethnic groups or tribal groups or sectarian groups or religious groups. Once you have the bus station or whatever you want out of these countries, once you have states which are homogeneous, made of one group, either ethnic group or sectarian group or religious group or tribal group, like the Gulf Emirates, you get very successful country because nobody is fighting with anybody and the name of the social game is different. Therefore, the politics are much more powerful and much more calm and much more acceptable. So this is the basis, the basic difference between the failing states and the successful states.
If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this: you can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real, it is stored safely, it is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.